I'm a licensed professional counselor, and this is my mental health analysis of the Katlyn Lyon case. These are my speculations.
The Clinical File with John Cordray.
What happens when someone openly admits their mental health issues that are spiraling out of control in a message, only to follow it with an act of irreversible violence against the person they claim to love? This is the psychological question I'll answer in this episode of The Clinical File. In exploring this case, we uncover patterns of obsession, rejection sensitivity, and emotional dysregulation that can escalate into dangerous behaviors, offering insights into why some relationships turn fatal despite clear warning signs. The most recent developments came in 2025 when Trenton Fry, an ex-boyfriend of Katlyn Lyon, received a life sentence after his conviction for first-degree murder. This followed a trial in April 2025 where a jury deliberated for just about an hour before finding him guilty, highlighting the strength of the evidence presented by the prosecutors. Katlyn Lyon was a 28-year-old woman from Forest, Virginia. She was found unresponsive in her apartment on October 7, 2022. She passed away the next day from injuries consistent with strangulation. Her 4-year-old daughter was the one who first noticed something was wrong and alerted the roommate, Jacob Piercy, who then called emergency services. Initially, responders suspected a drug overdose, but medical examination revealed marks on her neck and head that pointed to a violent assault. Investigators later determined that charging cord adapters found tangled in her comforter had been used as the weapon. From a psychological perspective, the choice of such an impromptu yet intimate method suggests a perpetrator driven by intense personal rage, possibly someone who felt entitled to control her even in her most vulnerable state, like sleeping. This kind of behavior often stems from deep-seated issues with rejection, where the individual perceives the end of a relationship as a profound personal attack, triggering a need to reassert dominance. Katlyn had met Trenton Fry through a dating app in January 2022, and the relationship progressed quickly. He presented himself as a successful businessman owning a security firm and a construction firm, which appealed to Katlyn's desire for stability as a single mother. However, as time went on, inconsistencies emerged in his stories, revealing that he lacked steady employment, credit, and even a stable home, often living in his car or using his mother's vehicle. This deception eroded trust, and by early September 2022, Katlyn ended the relationship after he confessed to these lies. She blocked him on her phone, which is a clear boundary-setting action that, in psychological terms, can provoke severe backlash in individuals with attachment insecurities or narcissistic traits, as it shatters their illusion of control. Fry's response to the breakup included persistent attempts to contact her, including sitting in her apartment parking lot to watch her movements. Such stalking behaviors are a classic red sign for escalating danger, often linked to obsessive rumination, where the person fixates on the lost relationships as a core part of their identity. Cell phone records showed Fry in the Forest, Virginia area starting October 4, 2022, pinging near her apartment complex. On October 6th, a neighbor captured a photo of him at a picnic table with a view of her building, and surveillance from a nearby gas station showed him dressed in all black. These actions indicate premeditation mixed with impulsivity, a psychological cocktail that can arise from untreated emotional distress, where planning meets a breakdown in relational decision-making. Hours before the attack, Fry and Katlyn exchanged heated texts, with him calling her names like a lowlife. But more tellingly, he wrote, "My mental health issues are getting out of control and hurting like never before." These messages reveal a self-awareness of deteriorating mental health, yet no apparent effort to seek help before acting out, which points to possible deficits in emotional regulation and impulse control, common in conditions involving heightened reactivity to stress. Why would someone broadcast their psychological turmoil in this way? It may serve as a manipulative plea for reconciliation or a veiled threat, but in hindsight, it underscores a failure to manage internal chaos, allowing it to spill over into harmful actions. That night, around midnight, Jacob, her roommate, heard a noise near the balcony but saw nothing unusual. The apartment's sliding glass door lock was broken, providing easy access. Prosecutors argued Fry used a bench from the complex to climb onto the balcony, entering silently despite 3 dogs in the home. This plan appeared to rely on an impressive level of optimism regarding forensic science and the alertness of the household pets. From a mental health angle, such a risky entry method suggests overconfidence in one's abilities, a trait often seen in individuals who overestimate consequences due to distorted self-perception or dissociative states under stress. Once inside, Fry allegedly strangled Katlyn with the charging cords while she slept, and her daughter was nearby. The proximity to the child adds a layer of psychological callousness, indicating a perpetrator so consumed by their own emotional storm that they disregard the profound trauma inflicted on innocents. Rejection can trigger abandonment fears rooted in earlier life experiences, though no specific background on Fry's childhood is publicly detailed, leading to speculations that unresolved attachment wounds fueled this disregard. After the attack, Fry's phone connected via Bluetooth to Katlyn's iPad at around 4:15 a.m., placing him directly at the scene. He then returned to North Carolina, where he checked himself into a mental health facility, reporting memory loss and suicidal thoughts. He told the staff he was missing pieces of time for the last month, and that his whole head is messed up. This post-act hospitalization could reflect genuine remorse, or a strategic move to establish an alibi of instability. But psychologically, it highlights a pattern of avoidance, where confronting the reality of one's actions becomes overwhelming. Investigators obtained his phone from the facility, uncovering the incriminating data. When questioned, Fry denied involvement, claiming he hadn't been in Virginia, a statement that's contradicted by cell phone towers. This appears to be another example of the timeless strategy of attempting to outsmart investigators who literally do this for a living. Such blatant lies under scrutiny suggest cognitive dissonance, where the individual clings to a false narrative to protect their self-image, even as evidence mounts. Katlyn's family, including her mother and aunts, were devastated. Her mother, Crystal, arrived at the hospital to see responders performing CPR on her daughter, a memory she described as unforgettable. She then vowed to find who did this, telling investigators, "You're going to find whoever did this to my daughter." This family's grief illustrates the ripple effects of such crimes, where survivors grapple with secondary trauma, often experiencing anxiety, sleep disturbances, and shattered sense of safety. Psychologically, this can manifest as hypervigilance or depression, underscoring the need for support systems. Their accounts paint Katlyn as an independent, loving, and expressive, with colorful hair like purple, symbolizing her vibrant spirit. Victimology here reveals a woman who sought healthy connections but encountered manipulation, a common dynamic in relationships involving deceit. The investigation initially focused on Jacob, the roommate, but shifted quickly to Fry based on digital evidence. No DNA or fingerprints were found, partly because the family cleaned the apartment, including washing the sheets before foul play was confirmed. This innocent action complicated forensics, but didn't derail the case, thanks to technology. In terms of mental health, the reliance of digital footprints in modern times highlights how our online lives can betray hidden intentions, offering clues to behavioral patterns like stalking. Fry's Google searches for the apartment layout further indicate obsessive planning. The trial in March 2025 brought more details. Fry testified, admitting that he was in the area due to a heartbreak and sleep issues from mental health struggles, but denied entering the apartment. He claimed he couldn't climb the balcony quietly, saying he would have to be a ninja of some sort to move a metal bench without noise. This explanation offered was imaginative, if not particularly persuasive. Psychologically, involving such a fantastical self-image might stem from a denial or grandiosity, where a person reframes their actions as impossible feats to distance themselves from guilt. The defense suggested alternative scenarios, like an accident or involvement with Jacob, but medical evidence refuted this, showing no sexual assault. Prosecutors emphasized a sneak attack on a sleeping victim, calling it brutal. The guilty verdict brought quick relief to the family, though Christo noted it didn't return her daughter. At sentencing on August 19, 2025, the judge imposed life in prison, describing the act as cold-blooded. Fry expressed sorrow for the loss, but he took no responsibility. This lack of accountability is a psychological red flag for antisocial traits, where empathy is selective or absent, complicating any path to rehabilitation. Katlyn's mother turned to TikTok to share her grief and demand justice, building a community that amplified awareness. This online advocacy reflects a coping mechanism, channeling pain into purpose, which can aid in processing trauma psychologically. Throughout this case, the psychological threads weave a tapestry of deception, obsession, and unchecked emotional pain. Fry's admitted mental health issues, stalking, and violent response to rejection suggest potential indicators like borderline personality features, but these remain speculations. What drives someone to such extremes? Often it's a confluence of poor coping skills, unaddressed trauma, and a belief that control over another can mend internal voids. Katlyn's story reminds us to heed signs of possessiveness early, as they can foreshadow danger. Her vibrancy and love for her daughter contrasts sharply with the darkness that ended her life, urging a focus on prevention through mental health support. The family's resilience in seeking justice honors her memory, turning personal loss into a broader advocacy. As we reflect on these elements, consider how early intervention in mental health crises might alter such outcomes. In the end, the evidence pieced together a clear picture, bringing closure amid sorrow. So this case is really an eye-opener for those of you who use dating apps to go on dates, to find a partner. You really have to be careful, do your homework before you meet somebody. You just have no idea what that person is going to do. You don't know if they're going to be truthful or not. So do your homework, do some research before you meet them. This is a tragic ending for Katlyn and her family and her daughter. I cannot imagine what her daughter must be going through. She was very young at the time, but she will likely remember this and likely have trauma from this. And I really hope that she gets mental health support. So what did you think about this case? Were there any elements that stood out to you? Thank you for joining me today. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe.